The parachute snapped open with a violent crack. Below, the wildfire clawed at the timber, but Jacob's eyes locked on something else. A perfect circle of cleared ground, a campfire already burning, 4 backpacks arranged around it. No one was visible. His boots hit the duff hard. Smoke drifted through the trees. The orange glow of the fire line pulsed in the distance. But the closer danger was the campsite in front of him. Fresh flames danced in the ring. The packs sat untouched, too neat.
This is wrong. The briefing said first responder. So who built this fire?
The canvas was stamped with the Forest Service shield. 1970 is vintage, but flawless. No dirt, no wear, like it had just left supply. From above, the symmetry was deliberate. 4 packs at cardinal points, the fire at center, like an altar.
There should be 4 smoke jumpers here, but no tracks, no chutes, nothing.
Jacob pulled his logbook, jotting down the details in the firelight. His gloved hand trembled slightly. A quarter-mile north, the lightning strike still burned. He was supposed to be fighting that, but this mystery held him rooted. Jacob lifted the radio from his shoulder, thumbed the transmit. Static hissed.
Dispatch. This is Reyes on the ground. I have a situation.
Copy, Reyes. Go ahead.
I am at the drop zone. There's a cleared circle, campfire burning, 4 Forest Service packs. Nobody around. Gear looks 70-something vintage. Over.
Say again? 4 packs? I have no other assets assigned to your grid. Let me check the logs.
A long pause. Jacob heard fingers clacking on a keyboard, then silence.
Negative. No personnel deployed to that sector in the last 40 years. You are the sole jumper.
That's impossible. I am staring at the packs right now. Somebody lit this fire.
Understood. Proceed to the lightning fire half a click north. Suppress and contain. Leave the camp untouched. We'll debrief later.
Jacob stared at the radio. The dispatcher's words felt like a door closing. He turned north, the fire waiting, the campsite burning behind him. He pushed through the underbrush, the fire's roar growing louder. The orange glow pulsed through the tree trunks like a warning.
You are a smoke jumper. Focus on the drop. The camp is a puzzle for later.
He reached the fire line and drove his Pulaski into the dirt. Sparks flew, embers nipped at his arms.
But those backpacks, perfectly spaced. No dust. Someone put them there, not long ago.
Hours bled together. The fire fought back, but Jacob fought harder. Sweat and soot painted his skin.
And the fire in the center, like a campfire waiting for people to return.
He paused to drink, lungs burning. The forest ahead was a wall of smoke and dying flame.
Dispatch said no records, but someone was there. Someone from decades ago.
In the smoke, shapes shifted. For a moment, he thought he saw figures among the trees. He shook off the vision and resumed his work. The fire was shrinking, but the mystery would not burn away. The last ember died. 12 hours of firefighting left Jacob exhausted and covered in soot. He looked south.
No smoke rose against the stars. No orange flicker. The campfire should still be burning.
He stepped into the clearing, his headlamp carving a narrow channel of light. Bare dirt, no packs, no fire pit. The forest floor was pristine. Pine needles, duff, not a single ember or footprint.
This is impossible. I was here hours ago. The fire was bright.
He pulled out his GPS unit and stared at the screen. The coordinates matched exactly.
So, where is everything? Where did the packs go?
He swept the beam in a frantic arc. Nothing but dirt and tree shadows.
I didn't imagine it. The fire, the packs, the smell of canvas. They were real.
The forest pressed in, utterly silent. For the first time, it felt like something was waiting. He dropped to his knees, fingers combing frantically through the pine needles where the campfire had burned. Nothing but cold earth.
There's not even a heat mark. The ground should be scorched.
He crawled in widening circles on hands and knees, searching for a strap, a buckle, anything. The forest offered no answers. Finally, he sat back, breathing hard. The silence pressed in like a second darkness.
I have to report this. They'll think I'm crazy, but I have to.
He unclipped the radio from his harness, thumbed the transmit button. His voice came out hoarse and thin.
Dispatch, Reyes. The campsite is empty. No fire, no packs. The ground looks untouched.
Static hissed back at him. He waited, counting the seconds until the channel would time out.
Maybe they think I am already compromised. Maybe I am compromised.
He racked the radio onto his gear and sat against a tree, eyes fixed on the empty clearing. Dawn couldn't come fast enough. Midnight came and went. Jacob forced himself to key the radio once more, his thumb hesitating.
Dispatch, Reyes. The campsite. It's gone. No trace.
Reyes, say again? Gone? Are you certain?
I've searched the ground. No ash. No depressions. It's like it never existed.
A long silence stretched. He could hear the dispatcher breathing, choosing words with care.
I've double-checked the logs, Reyes. There's no record of any unit in your sector, not in 40 years.
She sounds scared now. Good. At least I am not alone in this madness. But what if I am? But if there's no record, then who lit the fire? Who carried the packs? The question gnawed at him.
Reyes, hold your position until first light. Extraction is scheduled at dawn. Do not approach the camp again.
He leaned his head back against the bark and stared at the clearing. The dark was heavy with waiting. He let the silence swallow him whole. Dawn bled orange into the treetops. The thump of helicopter blades rattled the silence. The helicopter descended, its downdraft pressing the pine boughs flat. Jacob grabbed his kit and ran low. As the bird lifted, he pressed his forehead to the window. The clearing shrank beneath him.
There, the same circle. No scar, no char. No char. Just a perfect blank in the forest.
The campsite he'd knelt beside hours ago was a memory with no footprint. The ground looked like no human had ever touched it.
So why do I still smell wood smoke and canvas?
The helicopter banked, and the clearing vanished behind a ridge. Jacob's stomach dropped with it. They touched down on the base tarmac. Jacob stepped out into the cold dawn air. The mountains watched. He dropped his Pulaski and helmet by the gear rack. The walk felt longer than the 12-hour fight. In the locker room, steam wrapped him. He stood under the shower, fully clothed. The water couldn't wash away what he'd seen. Jacob left the steam and walked into the ops room. The other jumpers around the big map table stopped talking.
As I passed by, they looked away quick. Like they were afraid I'd ask a question.
He tried to explain about the campsite to a veteran by the radio. The man just shook his head and muttered, "Not again."
Not again. So it has happened before. How many jumpers have seen that campsite?
He poured cold coffee at the mess table. No one sat within 3 chairs. The silence was louder than any radio static.
They're all in on it. Or they were told to never speak, which is worse.
Passing Shepard's office later, he saw lamplight under the door. A drawer slid shut, and footsteps moved away.
Tomorrow he'll call me in. I'll get the official story, but I know it won't be the truth.
After midnight, Jacob gave up on sleep. The barracks felt too full. He sat up in the dark, listening hard.
Something is breathing just outside the window. I know it's not the wind.
Shepard found him at dawn. The supervisor didn't knock. He just opened the door to Jacob's bunk and said, "Come with me." Jacob followed, the base corridors feeling narrower than before.
Close the door. Reyes, what I am about to show you doesn't leave this room.
He turned the folder toward Jacob. The label was a precise latitude and longitude, the clearing's exact center.
You are not the first. 6 others, spread over 48 years, have filed identical reports. Same camp, same gear, same vanishing.
6 others. So this isn't new. It's been happening for decades.
Shepard opened the folder. pulling out a typewritten report from 1988. The description matched Jacob's exactly.
The agency has classified the phenomenon as a psychological anomaly. Every jumper who's seen it eventually quits or transfers.
Leaves? Or disappears? What aren't they telling me?
The folder was thick. Reports, photographs, handwritten margins. Jacob's hand trembled as he reached for it. He leafed through the stack. Report after report described the same circle, the same fire, the same packs, down to the last detail. One note, scrawled in shaky cursive in 1981, read, "It was exactly as before. I do not wish to return." Signed C. Weaver.
All of them saw it, and all of them left the agency. What did they know?
The first report was filed in 1973. That one is different. Those jumpers didn't come back.
Didn't come back. Disappeared in the same forest where I stood.
Shepard slid a yellowed page across the desk. The typewritten names hit Jacob like a physical blow. Emilio Reyes, Mark DeSoto, Peter Hannigan, Samuel Cross, all four listed as missing, presumed dead.
Reyes. My name. But there are a dozen Reyes in the service. It's just a coincidence.
Their gear was never recovered. The search went on for weeks. Nothing.
And now I've seen their camp, their packs, their fire. I was standing in their footprint.
Shepard turned a page and slid out a black and white photograph. 4 young smoke jumpers grinned at the camera, gear bright, morning sun behind them.
The second from the left. The jaw, the eyes. It's like looking at a family portrait that should be hanging in my mother's hallway.
Jacob fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a creased color photo. A boy with a strong-jawed man who was supposed to have died in a different state.
This is my grandfather, Emilio Reyes. My mother told me he died on a fire in Montana. What is his photo doing here?
Emilio Reyes. He was the team lead in 1973. The official report says he was lost on a different fire, but the file tells another story.
Shirade's voice was calm, but his eyes were fixed on Jacob's trembling hands. The old photo nearly slipped.
They lied to my family. The agency buried his real fate. My mother grieved over an empty box.
I am showing you this because I think you deserve the truth, but the truth has a price. Reyes, this thing has a way of following families.
He's warning me. Like this campsite chose my family decades ago, and it's not done yet.
Jacob stared at his grandfather's youthful face. The grinning man in the photo had jumped into the same circle, 48 years ago, and never walked out.
Is there more? You said the truth has a price. I need to know what happened to them.
There's a cassette tape, an audio log from the 1973 team's final transmission, and this envelope sealed for 48 years.
Shepard's hand shook as he placed the cassette beside the photo. The label read only 1973, audio log.
Listening to it will change how you see the forest forever. Some doors shouldn't be opened.
He's offering me a key and warning me not to use it. But how can I walk away now?
Jacob reached for the cassette, his fingers cold. The envelope sat unopened, its red stamp like a warning.
If I listen to this, I might hear his voice, my grandfather's last words. Can I live with that?
You are not obligated to open either, but if you do, know that the agency will deny this ever existed.
Jacob slid the cassette into his pocket and picked up the envelope. Its weight felt like a stone. He stood, the chair scraping. Shepard didn't move. The office air was thick with unspoken stories. Jacob closed the barracks door and sat on the edge of his bunk. The cassette player felt heavy in his hands. He pressed play. For a moment, only static. Then a voice, crackling and distant, began to speak.
That voice, even through the hiss. I know it. It's him. My grandfather, younger than I've ever heard.
The tape recited coordinates, weather, then a pause. The voice said, "There's a fresh camp here. 4 packs, perfect circle. It's wrong."
The same words I said to dispatch. The same camp. He saw it too.
Then a sharp scream tore through the speaker, followed by a dead silence that stretched too long. Jacob gripped the bunk. When the voice returned, it was barely a whisper, hurried and cracking. It said, "It's a loop. Don't let them send you."
Don't let them send you. The agency. He was warning me across 48 years.
The tape ended with a click. Jacob sat frozen, the silence heavier than the scream.
They didn't die in a fire. They were taken by something in that clearing, and I stood in the same circle.
In the restless dark, Jacob pulled a blank form from his footlocker. The words didn't need rehearsal.
Walking away means the agency's secrets stay buried, but staying means becoming part of the loop.
He signed his name. The pen dug into the paper. By morning, the ink was dry. At first light, Jacob walked to Shepard's office. The unopened envelope stayed in his pocket.
You look like you haven't slept.
I listened to the tape. I know what happened. I can't stay.
Jacob placed the resignation letter on the desk. The sealed envelope remained beside it, its red stamp unbroken.
I don't have an answer, Reyes. Whatever is in that clearing has been there longer than us.
No answers. Just a warning, echoing from a dead man's tape. That has to be enough.
He walked out into the cold dawn. The base was quiet behind him. His truck waited. Months later, Jacob parked on the forest road. The trailhead was overgrown, but he remembered the way.
The ground is still perfectly circular. Nature never reclaimed it. Why?
He knelt and laid the photograph of his grandfather on the exact center of the circle. The young face smiled up at the canopy.
I am sorry they covered it up. I am sorry you didn't get to come home.
He stood, arms slightly open, waiting. The wind shifted, carrying a faint smell of wood smoke. But nothing appeared.
I can feel you. Close. The hair on my arms is standing up.
Minutes passed. The clearing held its breath. Jacob opened his eyes. The photo remained. The forest was unchanged.
It's not for me to fix. This place doesn't need me. It just is.
He left the photograph where it lay and walked back toward the trail. He didn't look behind. The clearing swallowed the light. By the time he reached the truck, the smell of smoke was gone. He rented a small place near the Bitterroot, far from the base. The photograph went on the mantel. The envelope stayed in the drawer.
That clearing is still out there. Still empty. Still waiting. But I am not a jumper anymore.
One rain-soaked evening, he sat at the kitchen table and began to write. Every detail, every name, the whole uncensored record. He described the campsite, the packs, the photo of his grandfather, and his own jump.
I'll seal this and write. Open only if another jumper reports the same phenomena. Maybe then someone will listen.
He folded the pages and sealed them in a plain envelope. No return address. He drove it to the county post office himself, dropping it into the blue box. The metal clang of the slot felt like a punctuation mark. He stood there a moment, then walked away.
There. Now, it's on record, not buried in a classified drawer. If the cycle continues, the next jumper might find my words.
He returned to his quiet life, but the drawer with the photo and the cassette stayed unlocked. Years later, a different smoke jumper dropped into the same Idaho sector. Same coordinates, different briefing, but the same wild ridge. The parachute snapped open, the jumper scanning for the fire line, but the clearing came into focus first, empty and unnervingly round. Boots hit the duff. The smoke of the distant fire drifted through the trees, but here, in the circle, the air was still. No packs, no campfire. Fresh duff where the altar should have stood. The jumper frowned. Then a wisp curled up from the center. Thin, gray, carrying the smell of burning pine. The smoke thickened for a heartbeat, then stopped, leaving only the scent and a sudden chill. The jumper stepped back, eyes scanning the bare dirt. There was nothing to fight, nothing to see. The forest floor was pristine. Not a single ember or footprint. Yet the smell of wood smoke clung to the air. The jumper keyed the radio, voice steady but uncertain. "No assets on the ground. I've got smoke but no fire. Over." Dispatch answered, puzzled. "You are the only jumper in that grid. No record of any other personnel." The loop had found a new point. It always would. Years later, an envelope arrived at the small house. No return address, but the postmark was from the base. Inside, a creased newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Smokejumper missing on Idaho fire." Below it, the coordinates.
The same coordinates, the same loop. It never ended.
He folded the clipping precisely and carried it to the drawer where he kept the old photograph and the unopened envelope. He set the clipping beside his grandfather's smile. The drawer closed with a hushed click.
I tried to warn them. The letter, the truth. But the clearing doesn't listen.
He stood at the window, watching the mountains. The same peaks that rimmed the circle. The stack of reports in his mind was thicker than the one Shepard had shown him. The dead had names. They always would. Outside, the dusk gathered. Somewhere, the clearing was quiet again, waiting for the next jumper. Jacob drew the curtain and sat in the growing dark, the drawer heavy with history and the weight of a warning that was never enough. He drove the familiar road one last winter, parking near the overgrown trailhead. The walk was slower now, but he remembered every route. At the clearing's edge, he stopped. The circle waited, as pristine as ever.
You can't break a loop by standing in the same place. He knew that now.
He did not step inside. The ground was no longer his to walk. He turned from the circle and walked back toward the trail. The fog rolled in behind him. In the truck, the old photograph lay on the passenger seat. He didn't look at it again. He drove home in the thin light, the mountains holding their breath. The years had taken the smoke jumper from him, but not the memory of the camp. He placed the photograph back on the mantel that evening and closed the blinds. Outside, the forest was just beginning to darken. Somewhere, a clearing held its silence. After Jacob Reyes died, his daughter opened the drawer where he kept his private things. Inside, she found the sealed envelope, its red stamp staring up at her. She picked it up. The paper was brittle, the stamp unbroken. He'd never opened it. Why? She knew the outline of the story. Her father's solo drop, the camp, the photograph of the grandfather she'd never met. She looked at the old black and white image. Emilio Reyes, forever young, forever missing. Her thumb brushed the seal. Inside could be the truth that haunted her father, but he had kept it closed. Perhaps he was protecting her. Some burdens are not meant to be inherited. She set the envelope down beside the photo and the clipping. The drawer was a vault of unanswered questions. She pushed it shut, the click sealing the decision. The house absorbed the silence. She walked to the window. The Bitterroot Mountains stood unchanged, just as they had on the day her grandfather vanished, and the day her father first jumped. And deep in the Idaho forest, the clearing remained. Waiting, a young ranger, decades after the Reyes disappearance, was mapping a remote Idaho sector. He came upon a backpack leaning against a pine. The canvas was flawless, the vintage Forest Service shield gleaming. No dirt, no wear at all. He knelt and unclipped the flap. Inside, gear from the 70s, precisely folded, unused. He keyed his radio, described the find. Dispatch sounded puzzled. No records, no reports. Leave it alone. He took a photo, saved the GPS point. The forest was unnaturally quiet, as if holding its breath. The pack sat on ground that showed no tracks, no disturbance. It had been placed, not dropped. He decided to walk away. A curl of smoke rose behind him, carrying the scent of pine, then faded. When he looked back, the pack was gone. Bare dirt and needles, undisturbed. He didn't call it in again. Some encounters, he understood, were not meant for reports. The forest swallowed the silence. Somewhere, a clearing held its circle, patient and unseen. Dusk settled over the clearing. The trees leaned in, black against the fading orange of a distant fire. From above, the circle was just a blank in the forest, patient and unchanged. The ground held no scar. Wildflowers had never grown there. A thin fog gathered, blurring the edges. The air thickened with an old smell. High above, a shape flickered against the smoke. It could have been a bird, or a chute opening. The silhouette drifted, too small to confirm, too deliberate to dismiss. On the ground, nothing moved, but the circle seemed to be waiting. Far off, the real fire still burned, indifferent. The duff was unbroken. No footprints, no ash. The light faded, and the clearing held its breath, patient as it had always been.